Hi guys, I'm Dr. Tara Tobias. I want to welcome you all back to my channel. In today's home exercise tutorial, we are going to continue on in a progression that we've been doing for several weeks now, going over a pretty in-depth progression to go from completely bedbound all the way to walking in the community with confidence, doing the activities you love without fear of falling. So we're getting to the point now where I consider these kind of high-level balance activities. It's still going to require the things that we've been talking about in all the other videos, that you're going to need really good hip control, really good knee control, really good ankle control. So try not to skip over some of the exercises that are in the other videos, because they will definitely help to make you more successful at this level, if you're not at this level, when you get to this level. And so then in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to work on some higher level hip control, because as I've said in the last couple of videos, that's really important, is to have good stability, but also to have like good coordination between the muscles around the hip and the knee. So we're going to progress the dissociation a little bit more today with a higher level activity, and then get to advancing some of the standing activities. But before we get into that, if you're new to my channel and you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload new videos. And now let's go ahead and dive in. So as we started last week, and in hindsight, I probably should have just included it in last week's video, but we went into tall kneeling. So I talked about how that is a great activity to break up some of those extensor synergy patterns, allow you to really focus on just the hip control without having to worry about the knee and the ankle. And I gave some diagonal patterns, which helps to start to dissociate the upper body and the lower body. So we're going to advance that now. This week, we're going to work on half kneeling, which is really just kneeling on one knee versus two knees. So I do have a video on half kneeling that I will include in the description below, because it teaches you how to get into half kneeling, which we're not going to do today. So if you don't know how to get into half kneeling, or you've never gotten into half kneeling before, click on the video in the description below, where I go into a little bit more depth into how to get into half kneeling and how to get out of half kneeling. But now, so why am I including it in this progression? Getting in and out of half kneeling, just like last week when you're lower to the ground, your body's just a little bit more relaxed. So that's always beneficial, because you can focus more on just one specific area. And in this case, it's going to be focusing in on the hip. And unlike last week, this week, when you're only on one knee, it really challenges that involved hip just a little bit more. So step one is just doing a little rotation with your uninvolved leg, just getting used to rotating that knee out. If any of you guys have been in therapy for a while and you've done any activities on your hands and your knees, it's kind of like a mini fire hydrant activity. So you're just kind of bringing that knee up and out to the side, just to kind of test the waters a little bit to see, do you have enough control in the involved hip to put all your weight on that leg as you try and move the other leg into different positions. So that would be step one in getting to half kneeling. Hold on to something initially just to make sure you have your balance. It's not a crutch. It's really just to make sure that you do good, high quality movement. So holding on or making things a little bit easier, or giving yourself a little bit of support initially, it's definitely not a crutch. So I get that question a lot, or I get that concern a lot when I offer someone something to hold on to when we're doing an activity in therapy. So hold on to something, start with this little mini fire hydrant, and then the ultimate goal is that you can bring that uninvolved leg all the way through until that foot is flat and that uninvolved knee is directly in front of you. And then once you're in this position, you're gonna try and let go. So take your hand off of any kind of support. Now, if your involved hip kind of drops out to the side, or you feel like you collapse towards your uninvolved side, it might mean that you just don't have enough hip control yet, and go back to that fire hydrant activity that we did just before this one. But you really want to make sure that that hip stays nice and straight. And then you're basically just going to hold it, getting real comfortable keeping that hip straight in this position. And then you're just going to do repetitions. It's kind of like walking, only you're walking on your knees. So you're going to just bring that leg back and then bring it up again. So now we're trying to coordinate can you stabilize on the involved side while you're moving the uninvolved side. So stay here as long as you need to. The better you get at this activity, it's just gonna make your walking that much better, and it's gonna make you feel just that much more confident when you get to standing and walking. So spend as much time here as you need to, just bringing it forward and bringing it back. And now we're gonna add a little bit more of that upper body and lower body like dissociation that I talked about. And then we're gonna do kind of the same progressions with the arms that we've done in kneeling and also in sitting. You're just gonna start by just moving your hands side to side and again doing those diagonal patterns. All right, and now getting to standing. So we're gonna do a couple of different exercises or activities in standing, progressing again from last week. So in last week's video, we worked on stepping onto the yoga block and over the yoga block, which are all great, but you're not really adding any resistance yet, right? You're just kind of lifting the leg through the air. Still very, very challenging, but we're gonna take that one step further this week, and you're actually gonna set your foot on a medicine ball. This is a pretty cheap medicine ball, and actually this medicine ball is not really round. It's filled with sand, and I really like it because it actually, if you put too much weight on it, which means you don't have weight on your involved leg, it actually, because it's filled with sand, it actually deforms the ball a little bit, and so it's not perfectly round, so it just adds an additional challenge versus like a traditional medicine ball, which really does maintain its shape even if you happen to put a lot of your body weight on it. So I'll put a link for this medicine ball in the description below. But now you're going to do the same movement that we kind of did with the furniture slider, only you're going to try and roll this medicine ball through those motions. So that added resistance of having to push this medicine ball in all those different directions really challenges the involved hip even a little bit more. And also now we're getting into a little bit of what they call like dual task activities, which I haven't really talked a lot about in this particular series, but I've talked about it in other videos. But dual task activities or split attention activities are really great because we're never working in really a closed environment like this, and you're never just walking. You usually are performing some kind of an activity. So it is really good to kind of ingrain some of these movements and make them more automatic by starting to incorporate something that splits your attention a little bit. So this does that a little bit. There's other ways of incorporating dual task or split attention activities, and maybe I'll do a whole video on that at some point, but this gets a little bit of that. Just having to roll this ball through these different patterns. And then again, as I've said in the other videos, when you start to roll it, if your ankle's rolling, your knee is going into hyperextension, or your hips dropping out to the side, or you can't keep your foot on the ball, those are all signs that you're probably not ready for this level yet, and I would just go back to the previous activity. Nothing wrong with that. The longer you spend on each of these progressions, the more ingrained they are, the more automatic these movements become. It just makes the next progression that much easier. So it's not a downside to just step back a little bit and go back to the previous progression or the previous video. And now for this next, what I call like a higher level balance strategy, we're going to use these cones. You can definitely hold on to something for this activity. If you've been following me for a while, I did this activity in a video, man, probably over a year ago now. I really, really love it. I will put a link for a set of these cones in the description below. These cones are great. They actually are not just good for this activity, but they're also the perfect shape to start doing grasp and release, stacking them, things like that. So again, I'll put a link for these cones in the description below for those of you who want to purchase them. But you're going to start with probably about 5 cones on the ground. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to do a little toe tap with your uninvolved leg on the cone that's directly in the middle. The easiest activity for this cone exercise is to just tap on one cone directly in front of you and then bring the foot down. Now, the way you make this more challenging is either by trying to tap on multiple cones before you bring the foot down, starting with like 2 and then bring it down, and maybe even 3 and then bring it down, and then maybe go to all 5 before you bring the foot down. So, I mean, that's about 10 to 15 seconds of standing just on your involved leg. Side note for any of you who are super curious, a lot of people ask me like, what's perfect? What's a perfect score? For those of you that are numbers people, technically, some of the standardized tests we use, being able to stand on one leg for 10 seconds is considered normal, or you would get a perfect score on a lot of tests. So this will definitely challenge you even beyond like a perfect score on one of those standardized tests. And then the way that you can advance this from here is try and set the cones up where you have somewhere you have to cross midline or cross the center of your body. Now you're starting to work those rotators a little bit more in that hip. And again, start with just one cone and then challenge yourself a little bit more across midline, and then bring the foot back over, the uninvolved foot to the other side, and maybe do like a combination. So tap maybe 3 cones, 4 cones, and just keep adding on to make this activity more challenging. Again, nothing wrong with holding on for this activity. I have a bunch of PVC pipes that I just have Dicem taped to the bottom of them. I'll put a link in the description below for the Dicem that I use just to give you a little bit of grip on the bottom of the PVC. Or I will also put a link in the description below of one that you can buy on Amazon for pretty reasonably priced. But definitely, again, nothing wrong with holding on initially when you do these activities. And then that is it. That's all we're going to do in this video. This is probably pretty much the end, or where I'm going to wrap up as far as the movement control activities. Everyone, regardless of where you're at in the progression, will benefit from next week's video, where we're going to talk about how to add in different conditions to really start preparing your body for walking in real life scenarios. Again, a little bit more of that dual task like I mentioned earlier in this video, and some activities that you can do to start incorporating that at home. Next week, we'll also start talking about different surfaces. So far, we've pretty much just kept the foot on a firm surface, and how to advance your balance in your walking by putting different surfaces, and then some other conditions that you want to start addressing that will simulate real life examples. So definitely look forward to that next week. If you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. If you like these walking exercises, especially those of you who are at this level, I just kind of want to get a feel for how many people watch these videos that are at this level, because I consider this higher level balance, as I had mentioned earlier. So definitely give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more of these higher level balance activities. And that is it. That is it for today's video. I enjoyed spending time with you all today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. You all have a great day.